yourself now, baby. It's not my fault. You used to be so in control.
Hi, we're SWP Video Group 6. My name's Hannah.
I'm Rhiannon. I'm Lauren. Tamara.
I'm Alex.
We're doing the practical case scenario on family violence. So Julie's a 31-year-old who's recently fled from her home in Seymour with her 2 children who are aged 8 and 6 after suffering ongoing violence with her partner. She spent the night in a refuge property after she's presented to the Bendigo police station. During the intake and assessment, she explains that she's left her partner on 2 previous occasions but returned because she had no money and didn't know where to go for support. Was also fearful of what would happen when her partner started looking for her and her children. Her partner has been threatening in the past and she's worried that if he finds her, he'll kill her. This is the first time she's actually left Seymour. And she's left in such a hurry that she's taken minimal clothing and belongings. Julie also informs that she's not worked for several years and that her partner would not allow her to, and that in the 2 years since Lisa had started school, violence and controlling behaviour has escalated. As a result, she's got no income and savings of her own. She's got no rental history, and that the house that she was living in is in her partner's name. She explains that she's determined not to return home this time, but that she needs to know that her children are safe and that they'll be able to start again afresh in Bendigo. So in regards to the assessment of the client, Julie, in the above scenario, it is apparent that there are a number of multiple factors contributing to the current need for professional intervention. Julie has been referred for crisis intervention and assessment by the Bendigo Police Department, who have valid concerns about the client's ability to cope with her past and current life adversities, and in turn resolve her significant relationship breakdown. In particular, her estrangement from her partner, who has put her and her children at risk of both physical and emotional harm. Julie's personal problems have spanned a lengthy period of time, with clear indication that her structural poverty has interfered with her ability to implement change in the past. The ongoing spousal abuse and the domestic violence has had a long-term and far-reaching negative effect on her life force function, the children's stability, security, and the general family dynamics. The presenting problems are many and varied. However, the priority in this case is to form crisis intervention to secure immediate and safe accommodation that is suitable for Julie and her 2 young children. The threatening nature of her ex-partner will define her need to have immediate safe house type accommodation, which, such as a funded transitional house in the area. Once stable and appropriate lodgings are organised, the secondary presenting problems can be addressed in order of importance. Julie, Jessie and Liza will qualify for immediate access to the agency's use of transitional housing. However, as this is a very temporary solution, the social worker will be required to link Julie to a housing worker as soon as possible and put things in place to access more permanent and suitable family accommodation within the area. As the lives of the client and her children have been threatened, they will require access to emotional wellbeing support and counselling, as well as legal advice, legal aid and advocacy. The client has fled from her home with minimal possessions and will require access to services that can assist her to create a child-friendly environment in a new community. Things like clothing, furniture, school uniforms, stationery, support groups, healthcare, employment opportunities and access to education.
Okay, so now we're going to outline the assessment of Julie's case. Julie has presented to the service after becoming homeless the day before. Julie's case is complex with a number of factors that have led her to become homeless. Julie's pathway into homelessness was influenced by family violence. Statistics show that domestic violence is the leading cause of homelessness in Australia. Julie is considered to be experiencing secondary homelessness as she has a home, but it is too unsafe for her to return to. Julie has been experiencing violence and controlling behaviour from her husband for several years, which has led to her becoming dependent upon him and losing self-efficacy. The power imbalance and abuse of power in Julie's relationship with her husband may have been influenced by gender roles and how they are understood within the family. Julie's experience of gender roles within the family has been traumatic. Julie has not been allowed to control her own finances and has not been allowed to work for several years. This long-term manipulation and control has left Julie with no material possessions or finances. Julie has also been disempowered and demoralized. Julie stated that she had attempted to leave her husband before, but always went back due to not having the resources. The fact that Julie has committed to leaving this time, despite having no help or resources, is seen as a major strength in Julie's case.
When working with a client such as Julie and her family, it is important that the social worker chooses the best theoretical perspective to guide their information, assessment, and intervention around the client's best interest. Our group has highlighted the different theories and ways the social worker can help Julie through a process. When doing an assessment on Julie, the ecological perspectives would be a helpful theory to apply when looking closely at the immediate crisis that she's in. The ecological perspective is a way to looking at an individual's wider environment as well as their own. It has a focus on the relationship between the individual and the wider world around them. It has 3 different systems, the micro, macro, and meso levels, that can help explain and help the social worker formulate the intervention and assessment. The problems that are presented in Julie's micro level are the lack of family and friends, no income, homeless, and children. These issues highlighted will need a crisis response as they are impacting on her and her children's health, safety, and well-being. This is also placing Julie and her family in immediate harm and risk of becoming homeless if these issues are not addressed. The problems presented in Julie's macro level include a lack of community support, financial hardship, and unstable education for the children, as well as the problems presented in Julie's meso levels include gender inequality, the cultural understanding of gender roles, and policies on influence of family and domestic violence.
Okay, now we're going to outline the intervention plan. The intervention plan for Julie's case would need to incorporate a crisis response as well as longer-term social work responses. The first priority in Julie's case would be considered a crisis response, as a social worker would need to address the immediate practical issues that Julie is presenting with. Considering that Julie left her home in a hurry due to a crisis situation, she has not been able to make any arrangements for accommodation or finances. Organising a place to stay and money for food and necessary items would be the first priority in Julie's case. To do this, the social worker would need to link Julie in with other services and use the organisation's connections in the community to ensure that Julie has access to all available resources. Haven is one example of a housing organisation in Bendigo that can organise temporary accommodation for people experiencing family violence or other crisis situations. Helping Julie to link in with the Department of Human Services and Centrelink would be the next step, as Julie would be eligible to receive a crisis payment due to her circumstances. This payment would help to cover food and living expenses temporarily. Another immediate response would be to help Julie apply for a family violence intervention order, as she had stated that she is worried about her children's safety. As a social worker, we could provide Julie with information and referral to the appropriate services. The process would involve seeking legal advice through a community legal service, filing a formal report with the police, and applying for an intervention order through the court system. This is a complicated process, but as a social worker, you could provide Julie with all the information she needs, help her fill in paperwork, and accompany her to court hearings if that is something she would like. Support services are also available through the Bendigo Law Courts. These services are tailored towards people who need support while undergoing court cases. A service like this may be more appropriate, as it is specialised for people in situations like Julie's. The longer-term social work responses would be concerned with building on Julie's strengths and working to empower Julie and support her self-determination. Considering the assessment, the social worker decided that the social work response would need an approach that gives Julie the control over her outcomes. The strength-based theory would be appropriate in Julie's case, as it is a client-led approach and emphasises the client's abilities and strengths. This approach would provide the best practice foundations when working towards building self-efficacy. Julie has already taken the first step in changing her life by packing up and leaving her husband. Julie also identified how determined she is not to return to her husband. These are two strengths that have already been identified and would provide a great starting point for implementing a strength-based approach. Julie may also benefit from trauma-based counselling. This is a service that could be provided by you as a social worker, or could be provided by an external organisation that specialises in counselling. Bendigo Community Health is an organisation operating in Bendigo that has social workers and psychologists who specialise in trauma counselling. Counselling would also be another avenue to utilise this strength-based approach. During the assessment of Julie's case, the social worker decided that feminist social work practice would be another approach that could have benefited Julie. The dynamics of Julie's relationship with her husband suggest that Julie has been experiencing unhealthy representations of gender roles and gender-based violence. Feminist theories and approaches could help by reconceptualizing power. Showing power and control as being unrelated to gender could help to empower Julie to control her own situation.
One of the theories that has been highlighted as an appropriate theory when working with Julie and her family is strength-based perspective. Strength-based theory is where the worker will look at the client's strengths to help set goals as a way to help the client move forward. It is about focusing on the client's strengths that the social worker and the client has identified, as they are more likely to feel motivated and empowered if they themselves come up with strengths and goals. We have identified this theory approach as a way of helping Julie because she has had strengths that she needs to focus as a way to help move past her crisis. As mentioned before, Julie leaving with her children to seek safety away from her abusive husband is a strength. Using this example, the social worker would take this strength and focus on her courage and willpower to actually have the strength to leave, to provide a safe environment for her and her children. This then can be used as a strength as it shows that she is a good mother willing to do what is needed to protect the children. It will not only help Julie and her children with the family violence, it will also help them set goals in relation to fun in their house and their future goals, such as getting out of the transitional house that their agencies are moving through. Trauma-based counselling would be an important theory for Julie and her children, as it is essential to make sure that they do not have long-lasting effects such as PTSD or other side effects due to the impact of family violence. As the children who might have witnessed the family violence, we feel that Julie and the children would benefit from this aspect. A professional would use this in correlation with the strength base to be able to again focus on the strength of the client helping them with the Our group has identified the feminist social work approach to help explain the family violence that Julie and her children have faced. The feminist approach to family violence understands violence as an unequal distribution of power between the men and the women that can be seen on a historical level through time about the misuse of power by men who believe that they have the right control of women through emotional and physical violence. This therefore can be used to explain Julie's crisis, as mentioned before, as gender stereotypes and gender roles have been identified as an issue between her and her husband, as they had an unhealthy relationship between her husband overpowered Julie on physical and psychological levels. We decided by using this approach that the social worker could help Julie understand that she is not powerless based on her gender, and could make her feel empowered based on the notion that male and female are equal, and could help when looking at her strengths that were mentioned before. When looking into our case study, our group has identified that we are looking at the formation of their problem from a structural view instead of an individual view. Structural view is when you look at a situation as a bigger problem, not on an individual level. This means looking at the problems on a social level and trends in society in which a person lives in. The structural way of looking into homelessness is characterized by the underlying issues such as economic and social problems that include domestic violence. For this reason is why we believe that Julie's crisis can be seen from a structural level. Her homelessness has been caused by a family violence that stems from the increased percentage of domestic violence in Australia, as it is said to be the leading cause of homelessness in women and families in our society.
Okay, as mentioned previously, Julie's case would need to incorporate a direct crisis response due to Julie and her children being at immediate risk of homelessness. The Homelessness, Social Policy and Social Work, a Way Forward article by Murray emphasised that domestic and family violence is a leading cause of homelessness in Australia for women. Murray advocates for the prevention of long-term homelessness and early intervention strategies by increasing the availability of crisis accommodation for women as well as an adequate housing option for women. Currently in Australia, on any given night, 1 out of 200 people are homeless. 25% of these clients in Australia are women seeking assistance due to fleeing from domestic violence. The relevant past research that has been explored is based around effective intervention for homelessness in Australia. This includes the use of theory for intervention for Julie and her children and why this theory should be used in social work practice when working with victims of domestic violence that has led to homelessness. The first theory outlined for homelessness intervention is a strength-based approach. The research that was explored was based on an exploration of subjective well-being among people experiencing homelessness. Thomas Gray and Nick found that those that are homeless experience negative representations within society, such as stigma and stereotyping, which causes one to use labelling language and consequently is detrimental to what should be focused on, which is societal contributions to homelessness. Stigma and discrimination consequently places the homeless individual at the centre of blame for their circumstances and therefore creating low levels of self-esteem for victims of homelessness, leaving the individual with negative perceptions of themselves and a lack of motivation to change. This highlights why the strength-based approach is a significantly effective way of performing practice as an empowered individual. Thomas Gray and McGee reinforce that a strength-based approach emphasises collaborative processes that aim to discover homeless people's strengths and resources and exploit these positive characteristics to achieve their well-being. With relevance to Julie, using the strength-based approach would be significantly useful theory with regards to Julie previously experienced domestic violence. During this time, Julie's perception of herself may have been altered into a negative one, and incorporating a strength-based intervention will enable Julie to build on her strength and exploit her positive characteristics. Applying a feminist approach for intervention is another significant component of the intervention for Julie, as she's experienced domestic violence, which has led Julie to homelessness. This includes Julie's partner not allowing Julie to work, not allowing the house to be in Julie's name, and controlling behaviour that has led to Julie being oppressed. The relevant research literature explored was a feminist approach based on homeless women. In this research, Brown explored how homeless women after physical or sexual violence feel cut off from themselves and their community, producing a sense of helplessness and alienation. He also explored that it is predominantly about the misuse of power by men who believe they have the right to control women. This places women vulnerable to homelessness as they have lost control over themselves and their lives. According to Gandalf, 1988, women develop learned helplessness, such as depression, self-blame, low self-esteem, and a sense of hopelessness. This is why within the feminist approach, Brown explained it is essential for the social worker working with women such as Julie and her children to focus on the task of reconnecting these women to themselves, their children, others and their community, as well as empowering these women to gain control over themselves and their situation.
The particular ethical and practice challenges you may encounter when working with this case. It's been acknowledged through research that the leading factor contributing to homelessness amongst women and children is domestic violence. So when working with clients who have experienced domestic violence and beginning to experience homelessness, it is essential to acknowledge the factors making it work and ethical challenges that individuals may face. Practice and ethical challenges when working with this particular case include non-maleficence, protecting privacy and confidentiality, minimising the stress for Julie and her children, and legal obligations and conflicts that may arise. Domestic violence victims, such as Julie and her children, have already endured harm and distress leading up to the point when they presented at the police station in Bendigo and the Family Violence Crisis Centre. As a social worker working with this case, non-maleficence is essential to prevent inadvertently causing more harm or distress to Julie and the children. The client mother or her children may become distressed if sensitivity is not implemented. Ensuring sensitivity is exercised will help to promote and reduce the challenges of working with the family at this traumatic time in their lives. Also, the use of specialist children's workers is ideal in minimising harm to the children during this period. Ensuring the client feels safe and comfortable when working with them in the family violence service will ensure that minimal harm is caused and helps to reduce the challenges in working with domestic violence victims. Privacy and confidentiality are often intimidating reasons behind a woman's fear to seek help when she experiences domestic violence. Confidentiality and privacy issues can often pose as a practice challenge as clients need to feel that what they are expressing is kept confidential. A level of trust and rapport is essential for a client to demonstrate the ability to express their safety and wellbeing concerns in domestic violence and homelessness. Another major challenge that's often faced by social workers working with clients and families who have experienced domestic violence and homelessness is the issue of reporting and legal obligations. Mandatory reporting of family violence in Victoria is not enforced. However, in Julie's case, because she presented to the police station herself, there was no need for the social worker to report on her behalf. In the Northern Territory, any person over the age of 18 is required by law to report family domestic violence if they believe that somebody has or is likely to suffer serious physical harm as a result of family or domestic violence. When working with clients who have and are experiencing domestic violence and homelessness, it's important to acknowledge relevant legal and ethical considerations. Ensuring the well-being and health of the client is foremost important and critical to social work practice and positive influence on clients' lives.